Good afternoon, almost evening, Andy.
Hello, Kimberly. How are you?
Doing fine, doing fine.
God. Are we recording? No, we are. Okay.
We are,
Um,
we're all
we
set.
are,
YouTube is going.
okay, we are a little less than 10 minutes here before start time.
Yeah,
Awesome.
you can turn
Um,
off. I've got the opening slide up. I'll get the agenda up in about 5 more minutes.
Perfect. Um, thanks. And we have our open chat channel.
Yes, we do.
Okay, perfect. Thanks. I'll mute and stay off right, good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the July 7th special meeting of the zoning administrator. Today at 5 p.m. we are going to have one item on the agenda that we'll discuss. Before we do, I'd like to run through a few preliminaries. First, this is a remote meeting that in response to provisions of a governor's executive order suspending certain requirements of the Brown Act, we can hold this meeting as a Zoom meeting. The intention here is to help avoid spread of the COVID-19 disease. Members of the public can participate in this meeting virtually by logging in on the Zoom link. And those of you who are in attendance have already done so, either by video, or you can log in and then participate by phone. And I don't see that we have any members of public at this time who have called in. So as we go through this meeting, just like any other meeting face-to-face, we will be going through presentation by staff and then additional comments by the applicant, and any member of the public in attendance who wishes to comment may do so. In each case, I will recognize you in turn. You will need to use the hand signal or symbol on the screen, and then and unmute yourself and you'll be able to comment. So with that, if I can ask the hearing secretary to scroll further down on the agenda so I can read the title for the first item and only item. This is a public hearing and it's a minor design review for 425 Humboldt Street. Just generally, this project's coming back for a modification. It was previously approved for design review, and the applicants are returning with some changes that do require a public hearing. So with that, I'll hand it off to the project planner, Adam Ross.
Great, thank you, Mr. Zoning Administrator. I have a brief presentation to share with you to go over on the screen, so I'm going to go ahead and set that up. Okay, so thank you. Again, thank you, Mr. Zoning Administrator. My name is Adam Ross. I'm the project planner for the project before you, the previous version, and as well as the changes proposed. It is the 425 Humboldt Street Apartments. The file number is DR21-035. The address is 431 Humboldt Street. And again, I am Adam Ross with the Planning and Economic Development Department. The project itself, this is the approved version of it, and I should say that this is an approval for projects pursuant, an approval for changes to a previously approved project, and I'll have that zoning code written a little bit later. But this is the original approval here, as you can see on the map on March 24th of this year that came before you. You have the a top floor, outdoor space, an internal courtyard, sky bridges across each tower unit, parking for the residences in this area here on the first and second floors, and the ground floor includes amenities for the residents, leasing office, as well as offices for additional tenants. Much of that remains the same, but this is a bit of what these changes are. So the original project is 8 units, as I said, mixed use, mostly residential building. The new version cuts the top story so it's a 7-story mixed use residential building. The original approval had 94 units, although density is not regulated under the downtown stationary specific plan. It goes by FAR, which is floor area ratio. And so there's 88 units presented here. The breakdown is was originally approved 5 studios, 65 one bedroom, and 24 two bedroom. Now there are 14 studios, 64 one bedroom, and 10 two bedrooms. Most of that came from having to kind of reorganize how the building, all the units, how they sat with the changes that were done by the applicant. Floors 1 and 2 are mixed use, and floors 3 through 8 are residential. That remains the same, except for now it's floors 3 through 7 are residential. The square footage previously approved was 136,953 gross square feet. Approximately. The current version is plus or minus 117,432 gross square feet. The internal courtyard and roof terrace remains the same size. The original approval was 86 feet tall, and this one is 77 feet tall. And there were 71 parking spaces previously approved and 69 parking spaces with the revised version. There is no minimum parking requirement for projects in the downtown station area specific plan boundary. So that's just kind of for reference as well. So, but this gives you kind of the scope of some of the changes. So here's the project site. It incorporates 2 parcels that have, I believe, since been merged or is in the process of being finalized to be, it's technically a lot line adjustment to represent the shape of the yellow line shown on the image here. Again, as you see, Humboldt Street, 7th Street, and it's between 5th and 7th Street with rear access off of Riley Street and the main frontage off of Humboldt Street. So the general plan and zoning, both general plan and zoning is core mixed use within the downtown station area specific plan with an FAR of 8. The modified project is right at the midpoint, which is required by the zoning code, and the use itself is allowed by right. So it was just a design review pursuant to the resilient city development measures. So just to rehash some of what I just said, the original approval was minor design review. After a concept design review item is taken as an item before the design review board is done. That did happen on January 21st. And the approval by the ZA was on March 24th, 2021. And zoning code section 20-54.060 is what this approval falls under, which is changes to an approved residential project. So here's the site plan that remains the same. Again, here's just for reference, this was part of the approved project that remains the same. The parking is essentially the same. I think there was a loss of 2 parking units, and the applicant team can verify that if need be. So here's the 3rd floor plan. Most of these changes shown here are the internal layouts, which is not really something that is subject to design review itself. So this is mostly for reference. Also that the internal courtyard is pretty much unchanged. Well, it is unchanged. Again, that same thing goes here. You have internal layouts, which is not really subject to design review. There were some changes to the patios provided north of the Sky Bridge as part of this project, which is in the project description. But those are minor architectural details. Here's the roof plan. So here is the approved elevations from March 24th. As you can see here, pay attention here on the side, it's kind of like the railing type here, and you have this 8th story here and this Sky Bridge here. Here's the frontage facing Humboldt Street. And then here's the proposed elevation. So it's that different type of material on the patios. The Sky Bridge changed a little bit. That is internal, so it's not really seen from outside of the project, and the patios here on this side as well. And then we have, sorry, I'm just going back and forth. So just again, 7-story, still maintains that kind of butterfly roof. And then here still maintains that top floor residential area. And some of the window treatments, as you can see on the residential units, have changed very slightly. And then here is the south elevation, which faces down towards 5th Street. And then this is the west elevation facing Riley Street as approved. These are the approved versions. Here are the modified versions. Again, the same type of changes have occurred here to these elevations as they did the other elevations. There is some removal of these fixtures, which I believe laid over the actual siding, and those were labeled as optional CV photovoltaic solar panels on the original approval. If they could make it happen, these are shown without them. That doesn't preclude them from being incorporated in the future. Again, not much has changed on the first level. I think that's essentially, I think I've covered most of what it is here, and I'll let the applicant design team kind of go over any more of this as needed. So here's the approved elevations. These are the internal courtyard elevations as they face each other. And these right here represent the sky tunnels, the sky bridges that connect each tower on each floor. So there's some changes in this area here on this courtyard east elevation, and now they've kind of opened it up a little bit for with patios shown here. And the same type of treatment is carried over on the west elevation as well. So the materials remain unchanged where in use. And see, these were optional PV panels. This is part of the original permit approval, design review approval back in March 24th of this year. Some of the changes on this, it's less of an open air type balcony in these kinds of areas. And then here's the landscape plan. This is included in the updated package, but I'm sorry, yes, but it's unchanged. And with that, the recommendation is that from the Planning and Economic Development Department is that the zoning administrator approve the modifications to the 425 Humboldt Street apartments, an approved residential project within the downtown station area plan boundary pursuant to section 20-54.060 of the zoning code. And I'm available for any questions. And the applicant team, they don't have a PowerPoint presentation, but we can reference what I've provided here should we need it.
You're muted, Andy.
I had a brilliant start there. I'll have to do that over again. So if I'm going to summarize, Adam, I would summarize to say minor modifications to the exterior balconies, rather than open railing, it's enclosed. minor modifications, not expansion or reduction in the windows or glazing. Approved elevation, materials, and colors remain the same with the exception of the solar panels on the south elevation. Do the solar panels stay as an option on the roof? And does that matter in terms of design review here?
It doesn't matter in terms of design review. It's obviously encouraged, and they could come back with that at any point in time
Sure.
in the future.
Yeah. For whatever it's worth, I thought it was kind of cool how the panels were on that south elevation, but
Me too.
But otherwise, and of course, the reduction of the number of stories from 8 to 7, or yeah. But that upper balcony or terrace on the southeast elevation remains, or corner, and the roof form, that sort of butterfly roof, remains. Parking reduction by 2. So it looks like it's the character and quality of the building is substantially the same as what was approved. So that's my understanding. Does the applicant team have any comments you want to add to Mr. Ross's presentation? If so, please raise your hand. I see no takers. Oh, Mr. Rob Robertson, or Robinson, excuse me.
So yes, my name is Rob Robinson, and I am the president of IGH Partners, which is a sponsor for this whole thing. Tom Robertson and I are partners and are excited about this project. I'd like to start by just thanking everybody for putting us on a fast track to get this modification. And this literally is just, we were sliced out a story, and we had hoped to have another story, and we were going to use mass timber, which allows you to go 1 story higher than the traditional 5/2 structure. And it just ended up being much too complex for the site. We didn't have enough experience within our overall team, and then our main supplier went bankrupt for the CLT, and so and it was costly. So our solution was, let's just take 1 story out. Everything else remains the same, really. The footprint, the amenity package will be similar, and it's literally just 1 story gone, and so we feel like we're staying within the window that we're already approved under.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sorry your buyer went bankrupt. But this seems like a very minimal in terms of change in terms of overall design adjustment that you've made. Is there anyone in the public, well, unless there's another member of the team? I see Don Tomasi has his hand raised. Don.
Oh, just one last thing, just to clarify, it was one of our suppliers, none of our finance.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. The supplier himself that produced the mass timber, and I think that they're impacted by COVID and super high wood prices, and just didn't get behind it. So it really has nothing to do with our ability to move forward, other than the combination of factors made it better for us to remove a story.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. This is Don Tomasi. Should I proceed? I'm with TLCD Architecture, the architect for the project. Yeah, and that supplier was Katera, which that was a real gut punch to the CLT industry. So yeah, everything that's been said so far is accurate. Really, we're kind of taking out a middle floor. The only architectural changes of any significance, and they're pretty minor at that, are on the internal court, getting rid of the pop-out, bay windows, if you will, and replacing them with balconies, and some minor interior changes. The change in the balcony design, the different railings. It's actually kind of a semi-transparent metal mesh. And the refinements to the window units are basically, had nothing to do with cost cutting. It was about project evolution. When we came to the design review board the first time, we were at the completion of schematic design. And now we've got a few more months into the project and we're at the end of design development. So a lot of things got resolved and refined and so forth as we had a chance to work more closely with engineers on the sky bridges and so forth and look at better products. So yeah, that's basically it. If anything, the project has less impacts in terms of shadows and traffic reduction and so forth. But I think that will conclude my presentation.
Thank you. Any other members of the project team that wish to comment? Seeing none, let's move on to the public hearing portion. Is there any member of the public present that wishes to comment? If so, please raise your hand. All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. All right, well, Adam, thank you for bringing this forward. A project of this scale, it's not uncommon for them to be revised as design gets refined after entitlements granted. And I think what is proposed here is in substantial compliance with the originally approved minor design review. I'm very pleased that the scale reduction removed one of the intermediary floors and retained that awesome top floor with the terrace and the roof feature. I think that kind of distinguishes the building, and it's great that you're protecting that or preserving that going forward. I really have no other comment. I think the presentation on the differences between the previously approved and what is proposed as modification was clear and demonstrated that this is in the spirit of what was originally approved. So with that, I will approve the resolution, which I've read, with a modification. Everything about the resolution was perfect, except Adam, I think we need to either replace or modify or add to in the recitals, those whereas statements, the action of the zoning administrator on, when was that? March 24th?
Yes.
I think the CEQA findings that you made there are all fine, but it's possibly that one, whereas I don't have the resolution in front of me, unfortunately.
I have it read. I'm sorry, I have it in front of me.
Yeah, it just simply needs to be retooled to just memorialize the fact that the zoning administrator approved proposed project essentially as proposed. And I think at that time we did talk about suggested work on that west elevation to at all possible incorporate some sort of greening, I'll call it, of that elevation. I realized there was a narrow sidewalk there, but I continue on, to verbally encourage that the applicant team take a look at that as it moves forward. Should the infrastructure and street cross-section requirements, those could be fulfilled in some way, and then also do something to soften that edge to the street, that public frontage there.
Was that along Riley Street?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that west elevation. And again, that's a suggestion, not a condition of approval. An encouragement.
And just to be clear, I think I know exactly what you're saying. On the start of the second page of the resolution, the first whereas states on March 24th, 2021, the zoning administrator found the approved project statutorily exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15182 and government code section 65457, and that the project was pursuant to the downtown stationary specific plan. what it needs to say right before that is, whereas on March 24th, the zoning administrator approved the project. Is that right?
Right, yeah.
That's, okay.
That just kind of keeps the record intact in one place.
Yes.
But the conditions flow as they did previously into this resolution, and we can move forward the next step. So with that, project approved with the modified recitals of the resolution. The appeal period, should any matter or concern or issue need to be appealed by either the applicant or a member of the public in presence, they can do so by the end of the business day, July 19th. And if you do wish to appeal, please contact the project planner and make for arrangements to do so. Again, I thank you all for bringing this matter forward, and I now close the public hearing of the zoning administrator of July 7th.